Hello, friends. How are you? I hope you all are well. I want to share my story with you. Just a few months ago, I was struggling a lot with learning English. No matter how hard I tried, it felt impossible to speak fluently. I used to watch people speaking English so easily, and I would think, how do they do it? Why is it so difficult for me? Let me tell you a little about myself. My name is David, and I have always dreamed of speaking English fluently. I wanted to travel to different countries, meet new people, and maybe even work in an international company. But there was one big problem. I was afraid of speaking English. I studied English in school, but I never practiced speaking. I knew some words, but when it was time to talk, my mind went blank. I couldn't form sentences properly, and I was too shy to speak in front of others. Sometimes I tried to talk, but people didn't understand me. I felt embarrassed and thought, maybe I'm just not good at learning languages. Every day, I told myself, I will practice today. But when the time came, I hesitated. I was scared of making mistakes. I thought people would laugh at me or judge me. So, I kept quiet and avoided speaking English as much as possible. But deep inside, I knew that if I wanted to achieve my dreams, I had to improve my English. I wanted to watch movies without subtitles, talk to people from different countries, and most importantly, feel confident when I spoke. I just didn't know how to do it. This was my situation, stuck, frustrated, and unsure if I would ever be able to speak English fluently. But everything changed when I met someone who gave me the best advice of my life. Friends, let me tell you, learning English was not easy for me. It was one of the most frustrating experiences of my life. Every time I sat down to study, I felt overwhelmed. There were so many words, so many grammar rules, and so many things to remember. No matter how much I tried, I kept making mistakes. At first, I thought the best way to learn English was to memorize as many words as possible. So, I started writing down hundreds of new words in my notebook every day. I would repeat them over and over, hoping that I would remember them forever. But when it was time to actually use them in a sentence, I couldn't remember a single one. My mind would go blank, and I would struggle to find the right words. Not only that, but grammar confused me so much. I would try to make a simple sentence, and I would think, should I use is or was? Do I say go or went? The more I thought about it, the more confused I became. I wanted my English to be perfect, so I kept overthinking every sentence before speaking. This made me even slower and more nervous. And then came my biggest fear, speaking English in front of others. I remember one day in my English class when my teacher asked me a simple question. I knew the answer in my mind, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. My hands started sweating. My heart was beating fast, and I felt like everyone was staring at me. Finally, I managed to say a few words, but my pronunciation was terrible. Some of my classmates laughed, and I felt so embarrassed. That day, I promised myself I would never speak English in front of people again. Because of this fear, I avoided speaking English as much as possible. Even when I had a chance to practice, I stayed silent. If someone spoke to me in English, I would just smile and nod, pretending I understood everything. Deep down, I felt ashamed. I wanted to speak fluently, but I was too afraid of making mistakes. I also tried watching English videos and reading books, but it didn't help much. I would understand some words, but when I tried to speak, my sentences were always wrong. Sometimes I even thought about giving up. Maybe I'm just not good at learning languages. I told myself. Maybe English is too difficult for me. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. I kept studying, but I saw no progress. I felt stuck, lost, and frustrated. No matter what I did, I couldn't speak English the way I wanted. It felt like an impossible dream, something only smart or talented people could do. I started wondering, am I the only one who feels this way? Does everyone else find learning English easy? But deep inside, I knew there had to be a way. I just didn't know what it was yet. Little did I know that my journey was about to take a big turn. One day, I met someone who gave me the best advice of my life, advice that changed everything for me. One day, something happened that completely changed my English learning journey. I was sitting in a small cafe in my town, feeling frustrated after another failed attempt to learn English. I had just watched an English video, but I barely understood anything. My notebook was filled with words I had memorized, but when I tried to form sentences, my mind went blank. I felt hopeless. Maybe I should just give up, I thought to myself. Just then, I heard someone speaking English fluently at the table next to me. It was a man in his early 30s, speaking with confidence and ease. He was talking to a foreign tourist, and I could tell he understood everything perfectly. I was amazed. I had never seen anyone in my town speak English so well. I hesitated for a moment, but then I gathered my courage and approached him. "Excuse me," I said nervously. "Your English is really good. How did you learn it?" The man smiled. "Thank you. My name is Daniel. I wasn't always good at English, you know. Just a few years ago, I was struggling just like you." I was surprised. "Really? But you speak so fluently now." He nodded. "Yes, but it wasn't always like this. I used to make a lot of mistakes. I was shy, just like you. But then I discovered a few simple secrets that helped me improve my English quickly." I leaned forward, eager to hear more. "What are those secrets?" Daniel smiled and said, "The first thing you need to understand is that mistakes are your best friends." I frowned. "Mistakes? But I always try to avoid them." "That's the problem," he said. "Most people are afraid of making mistakes, so they never practice speaking. But the truth is, making mistakes is the fastest way to learn. Think about how babies learn their first language. They make hundreds of mistakes every day, but they don't care. They keep trying, and that's why they improve so fast. So, from now on, stop being afraid of mistakes. Speak, even if you're not sure. That's how you get better." I nodded slowly, letting his words sink in. "Okay. I guess that makes sense. But what if people laugh at me?" "Some might," he admitted. "But who cares? If you never speak, you will never improve. The only way to get better is to keep trying. And trust me, most people won't laugh. They will respect you for trying." That made me feel a little better. "All right, what's the next secret?" Daniel leaned in and said, "You have to practice speaking every single day." "Every day?" I repeated, feeling nervous. "Yes. The biggest mistake learners make is waiting for the perfect moment to speak. They think, I'll speak when I know more words, or I'll speak when my grammar is better. But that moment never comes. The only way to get good at speaking is to speak every day. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, You need to use your English daily. But I don't have anyone to practice with, I admitted. He laughed. You don't need anyone. Talk to yourself in English. Stand in front of the mirror and have a conversation. Describe what you're doing. Say, I am brushing my teeth, or I am making tea. Your brain needs to get used to thinking in English. I had never thought about that before. So, speaking alone can help? Absolutely, he said. And if you can find someone to practice with, even better. Join an English club, make online friends, or even talk to AI chatbots, but never go a day without speaking. I was starting to feel excited now. Okay, what's the next tip? Daniel smiled again. Listen, read, and think in English as much as possible. Think in English? I asked. Yes. Right now, you probably translate everything in your head before speaking. That slows you down. You need to train your brain to think directly in English. One way to do this is by listening to a lot of English every day. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, or even play English songs in the background. The more you hear the language, the more natural it becomes. I realized he was right. Every time I tried to speak, I translated from my native language, and that's why I was so slow. Okay, so I should listen to English every day? Exactly. And also, read in English. It doesn't have to be difficult books. Start with simple stories or news articles. The more you surround yourself with English, the faster you will improve. I was feeling inspired now. All right, so the last tip? Daniel grinned. Enjoy the process and don't rush. I was confused. What do you mean? Many people want to learn English fast. They expect to become fluent in a few months. But learning a language takes time. If you stress too much, you will lose motivation. Instead of thinking, I have to be perfect, think, I'm improving every day. Enjoy the small progress you make. If you learn one new word today, that's progress. If you speak one sentence today, that's progress. Celebrate every little achievement. I took a deep breath. So, don't worry too much and just keep learning? Exactly, he said. English is not about being perfect. It's about communication. If people understand you, that's what matters. Keep practicing, keep making mistakes, and keep going. I promise you, one day, you'll look back and realize how much you've improved. I felt something change inside me that day. For the first time, I didn't feel scared of learning English. I felt excited. I realized I had been focusing on the wrong things. Instead of worrying about mistakes, I needed to embrace them. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, I needed to practice daily. Instead of stressing, I needed to enjoy the journey. That day, I made a promise to myself. I would follow Daniel's advice. I would practice speaking every day. I would listen, read, and think in English. And most importantly, I would stop being afraid. And so my real English learning journey began. That night, after my conversation with Daniel, I couldn't stop thinking about what he had told me. Speak every day, make mistakes, think in English, enjoy the process. His words echoed in my mind. For so long, I had been afraid of making mistakes. I had been waiting for the perfect moment to start speaking English. But now, I realized that the perfect moment would never come. I had to create it myself. The next morning, I woke up with a new mindset. I stood in front of the mirror and said out loud, "Good morning, David. Today, I am going to speak English." It felt strange at first, talking to myself. But then I remembered Daniel's advice. Don't be shy, just start. So I started describing my actions in English. I am brushing my teeth. I am making tea. I am wearing my shoes. I wasn't sure if my sentences were 100% correct, but I didn't care. I kept talking. At breakfast, I looked at my food and said, "This is bread. This is butter. I am eating breakfast." My brain felt slow, but I pushed myself to think in English. The next step was listening to more English. I started watching simple English videos every day. Before, I had avoided English videos because I couldn't understand them. But now, I chose videos with subtitles and watched them again and again. I listened carefully, repeating the words and trying to copy the pronunciation. I also started listening to English songs. I picked slow, clear songs and wrote down the lyrics. Every day I would sing along, even if my pronunciation wasn't perfect. One of my favorite songs was Imagine by John Lennon. I played it over and over, singing with confidence. Slowly, something amazing happened. I started recognizing words in conversations. When I watched English movies, I didn't understand everything, but I caught familiar words and phrases. It felt like my ears were opening to the language. One of my biggest fears was speaking English with others. But I remembered Daniel's words. If you never speak, you will never improve. So, I made a new rule for myself. Whenever I had a chance to speak English, I would take it. The first time it was difficult. I went to a local cafe where some tourists were sitting. I took a deep breath and said, "Hello, how are you?" My heart was beating fast, but they smiled and replied, "We're good. How are you?" For the first time, I had started a conversation in English. It was short, but I felt proud. After that, I found an online English-speaking partner. We had video calls, and at first, I was nervous. I made a lot of mistakes, but my partner was patient. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I laughed at my mistakes and kept going. The more I spoke, the easier it became. Of course, I still made mistakes, lots of them. Sometimes I used the wrong tense. Sometimes I pronounced words incorrectly. Once I said, "I am boring," instead of, "I am bored," and my friend laughed. But instead of feeling bad, I laughed too. I realized that mistakes were my teachers. Every mistake taught me something new. Instead of avoiding them, I embraced them. Weeks passed, and I noticed a change in myself. I was no longer scared of English. I spoke more freely, and my sentences became smoother. When I watched English videos, I understood more words. When I listened to songs, I could sing along without looking at the lyrics. One day, something incredible happened. I was walking in the park when a tourist asked me for directions in English. Normally, I would have panicked. But this time, I smiled and replied confidently, "Yes, you need to go straight and then turn left. It's near the big supermarket." The tourist thanked me, and I walked away, feeling amazed. I had just spoken English naturally. At that moment, I realized that I had truly improved. I wasn't perfect, but I was better than before. And that was enough. The lesson? Learning English is not about being perfect. It's about practicing, making mistakes, and enjoying the process. The more you use English, the more natural it becomes. I had started as someone who was afraid to speak, but now I spoke with confidence. And if I could do it, so can you. Hello, friends. I have something incredible to share with you today. I want to tell you about the moment I realized that my hard work, my practice, and my mistakes had all led me to something amazing. The moment I truly felt like I had achieved my dream of speaking English confidently. Months had passed since I first met Daniel and received his life-changing advice. Since then, I had been practicing English every day. I talked to myself in the mirror. I described my daily activities in English. I listened to English songs and watched videos without subtitles. I even had conversations with people online. But I still wondered, am I really fluent? Have I really improved? I wanted proof. I wanted to test myself in the real world. One day, I got an opportunity that I never expected, an invitation to attend a business seminar in London. At first, I was excited, but then a little fear crept in. What if I can't understand native speakers? What if I get stuck while speaking? But then I reminded myself, I have practiced for this. I have spoken English every day. I am ready. So, with excitement and a little nervousness, I packed my bags and flew to London. The first morning in London, I walked into a small cafe. The waiter came to my table and said, "Good morning. What would you like to order?" Before, I would have panicked. I would have hesitated, searching for the right words in my head. But this time, something amazing happened. I didn't even think. I just spoke naturally. "Good morning. I'd like a cup of coffee and a sandwich, please." The waiter smiled. "Sure. Would you like milk in your coffee?" "Yes, just a little bit, please," I replied. And that was it. A simple conversation. But to me, it was proof that I had changed. I wasn't scared anymore. I could speak English without fear. Later that day, I attended the business seminar. There were people from all over the world, many of them native English speakers. At first I thought, what if I don't understand them? But then the first speaker started talking. And to my surprise, I understood almost everything. Of course, there were a few words I didn't know, but I didn't panic. I just focused on understanding the main idea. During the break, I saw a group of people chatting. I took a deep breath and walked toward them. This was my moment. "Hi, my name is David. This is my first time in London. How about you?" One of them smiled. "Oh, nice to meet you, David. I'm John. I live here in London. Welcome." I joined the conversation, asking questions, sharing my thoughts, and laughing along with them. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged in an English-speaking world. That night, I sat alone in my hotel room, thinking about my journey. I thought about the days when I was too afraid to speak, the times when I felt stuck and hopeless, the moments when I wanted to give up. And then I thought about everything I had accomplished, had spoken English naturally without hesitation. I had understood native speakers. I had joined conversations and made new friends in English. And in that moment, I smiled. I had done it. I had achieved my dream. My journey taught me something important. Anyone can learn English. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. If you practice every day, if you keep going even when it's hard, you will improve. I used to think that speaking English fluently was impossible for me. But now I know the truth. Fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being confident. It's about communication. So if you are struggling with English, remember my story. Keep practicing. Keep speaking. Keep believing in yourself. One day, you will look back and realize you made it. You are fluent. Hello, my friends. Today, I want to talk to you, not as someone who has always been good at English, but as someone who once struggled, just like you. I know how it feels to be afraid of speaking. I know how frustrating it is to study for hours and still feel like you are not improving. I know the fear of making mistakes, the embarrassment of forgetting words, and the frustration of not understanding fast speech. I was there. I lived through it. But today, I can tell you one thing with 100% confidence. If I can learn English, so can you. When I started my journey, I thought learning English was impossible. I looked at fluent speakers and felt like I would never reach their level. But now, I realize something important. Fluency is not a gift. It is a skill, and skills can be learned. No one is born speaking English. Even native speakers had to learn it from zero when they were babies. So why do we think that learning English as an adult is impossible? It's not. It just takes time, patience, and practice. The only difference between me back then and me now is confidence. Before, I doubted myself. Now, I believe in myself, and you must do the same. One of the biggest lessons I learned is this: mistakes are not your enemies. They are your best friends. Before, I was terrified of making mistakes. I thought that if I said something wrong, people would laugh at me. But then I realized mistakes are a natural part of learning. Think about it. When you were a child learning your first language, did you speak perfectly? No. You made hundreds of mistakes, but no one laughed at you. They encouraged you. And because of that, you improved. The same rule applies to English. The more mistakes you make, the faster you will learn. So from today, I want you to change your mindset. Instead of thinking, I don't want to make mistakes, start thinking, I want to make mistakes because that's how I learn. If you remember one thing from my story, let it be this: practice every single day. Even if you only have 5 minutes, use those 5 minutes to listen to an English podcast, read an article, or say a few sentences out loud. The more you use English, the more natural it will become. And don't just study English, live in English. Think in English. Write your daily thoughts in English. Watch movies and listen to music in English. Talk to yourself in English. The key to fluency is consistency. You don't have to be perfect today. You just have to be better than yesterday. Many learners think that they need to be perfect before they can speak English. But that's not true. English is not about being perfect. It's about communicating. Think about it. When you talk to someone in your native language, do you always speak perfectly? No. Sometimes you make grammar mistakes. Sometimes you forget words. But does that stop you from communicating? No. You still express your ideas and people understand you. English is the same. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be understood. If people understand what you are saying, that's all that matters. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Start speaking now. Even if you only know a few words, use them. You will get better every day. I want to leave you with one final message. Never give up. There will be days when you feel frustrated. There will be days when you think, I'm not improving. But trust me, You are improving even when you don't see it. Every new word you learn, every sentence you say, every mistake you make, they are all part of your progress. So keep going, keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, because one day you will look back and realize you made it, you are fluent, and the whole world is now open to you. Now go out there and start speaking English. You've got this. And that's the final part of the story. This section is meant to inspire and encourage learners to take action. Let me know if you want it even longer or with more details.